and welcome to this week's episode of MetaSpiritual Talk on the MetaSpiritualist Podcast. I'm your host, Marla, and through today's journey, we have a special guest that goes by the name of Shawn Energy. Shawn Energy is a Reiki healer, yoga enthusiast, and also creator and host of the Cosmic Temple on YouTube, and creator and host of the Monk on the Mountain podcast. Monk on the Mountain is a spiritually based podcast that offers a platform for modern spiritualists to express their spiritual experiences, spiritual practices, and spiritual disciplines. On the podcast, Shawn Energy discusses energy work, psychic ability, interdimensional travel, healing modalities, manifestation techniques, and all forms of creating love in our hearts. I am so excited to share this episode with you all. Take a listen. The MetaSpiritualist is guided by the creator of the universe through prayer, meditation, and sound healing. Shawn Energy, thank you so much for being on the MetaSpiritual Talk. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do and how you've arrived to this place in your spiritual journey.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your podcast here. It's just such an honor to be able to talk about these topics. And I'm just so grateful to be in a day and age where we can be free with our experiences and share them with people that are also on their journey so that more people feel, more at home in their spiritual quest, and they can feel that there is a community of people that are intelligent and have successful lives to whatever degree they want success, and they're normal people, but they also have this metaphysical aspect to them that they take very seriously, just as seriously as any other aspect in their life. And it is like probably the most important thing to any true spiritualist is their spiritual journey. Mm-hmm. So for me, it started out, as a child. I was going to say when I first came to Earth.
Yeah.
It's like kind of how I look at it. That is how I look at it. But when I was a child, I was deeply connected to spirit and I didn't even know it. But I used to meditate as a kid, and no one taught me how to meditate. I would just meditate. That was like a thing that I enjoyed doing as a child. And I had a lot of experiences that were like unexplainable as a child. I had like audible psychic experiences where I would hear like the thoughts of like my loved ones, sometimes like crystal clear in my head, like as if they were speaking, and I would respond to them. And then they were like taken back that because they didn't say anything. And I had other experiences, like visual experiences of things that happened. But in my childhood, I like lost touch with it as you get older, and you basically, you get involved with life and you start taking on different identities and you start participating in different parts of life. Like for me, it was sports and school and learning your identity and whatnot. And my father was basically the only person I could talk to about my spiritual experiences. I didn't even think of them as spiritual experiences when I was a kid, to be honest. He used to call it the sight. He used to say that you have the sight, and he had the sight, and his mother had it. So my grandmother. So to him, he explained it to me like a burden. Like in his experience of deep spirituality, it was like a burden. It made life very difficult to have extrasensory experiences or paranormal experiences or higher conscious understanding. These are words that I'm using now. He didn't even have like access to that because he was from an older generation. There wasn't the internet. You had to seek this in books or things that you heard, and like a really loose connection to spirituality. So that was like my only resource or outlet when I was a kid, and he passed away when I was 16. So
now, let me pause you right there, because I want to ask you, was he raised in a Christian home, a Catholic home, or was the family like belief system very liberal?
Yeah, that's a great question. He was raised in a Roman Catholic home. So a lot of crucifixes, a lot of Jesus, Mary, Joseph, a lot of like the fear of going to hell. I'm glad you asked that, because my dad he was in Vietnam, and he had like a really deep thing about him going to hell. Like he felt like he was going to hell, because he was in the war. And, that kind of like probably messed him up, like in his mental image and things, growing up. So yeah, I was in a very Christian household, Christian everywhere. I'm Roman Catholic. I'm from an Italian family, so that's basically the cathedrals in Rome and all
Mm-hmm.
that. So yeah, but just to get back, so he passed away, and then I went into what a lot of spiritualists describe as like a dark night of the soul,
Mm-hmm.
where I was like very, very lost, very, very like emotionally upset, and tried to continue my life. Went on to university, and did college and everything like that. And then after school, I was like, I knew less about myself than ever, and I had just got out of like a really difficult relationship where that person was like, they had a lot of healing that they needed to do, and it translated into like verbal and physical abuse that came toward me a lot,
Mm.
and emotional abuse, like all of the crazy things. I look at it now like I'm so grateful that I experienced that, because out of that experience I had no idea who I was anymore. I really didn't. I was like, who am I? Like, I didn't even have a personality that was my own anymore. I was trying to fit into so many different groups and
Mm-hmm.
trying to fit into what that person wanted me to be, that I had lost myself. And I remembered that when I was a kid, I used to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm going back to when I was a kid, because that's like the last time I could remember that I was like happy, that I knew who I was. And I started meditating again. So then I went on the internet and I was looking up meditation techniques. And this is in like 2000 and like late 2010, when
Okay.
my
Yeah,
big awakening.
I was gonna ask you about what age was that you
Yeah, like
inner
22.
reflected.
Yeah, I was like 22 years old. So I started researching different meditation techniques, and then that led me down like a rabbit hole of all types of information. And it's amazing now, because like 10 years later, there's a lot of access to like credible resources and good information. There's also still a lot of really misleading and wild information out there too, that's not
Mm-hmm.
very grounded or useful for people in their spiritual journey. But when I had first started, there was a lot of that, and like there weren't a lot of like spiritualists coming out and talking about their experiences. I was on forums where people were writing like pages and pages of forums, and like a lot of it had to do with like Archangel Michael and the galactic family and like your star seed stuff, and like all these different things. In 2010, I was trying to navigate through all that to find
Yeah.
like the truth within it, and how to become more spiritually sound. And I stumbled on Robert Monroe, the founder of the Monroe Institute,
Mm-hmm.
which is like the Exploratory Consciousness Institute in Virginia. And I stumbled onto their out of body techniques, the astral traveling, soul traveling techniques. And
Mm-hmm.
I found that if you were able to master this technique of soul, that you could reunite with lost loved ones. And
Wow.
yeah, and I was so like still in pain from the loss of my dad. So I started pursuing this pursuit of out of body experiences, and I dedicated everything I had to it. Like I did all the techniques, I took workshops. Yeah, I made a dream journal. I was meditating on it all the time. And eventually, with not even that long a time, a few months of real serious dedication, I started having like the onset initiate experiences energetically of getting out of body. And
Mm-hmm.
then after like getting the courage up to like see this experience through, I was able to get out of body, and had an out of body experience, a soul traveling experience. And the first one that I was successfully out of body, my father was like waiting there for me on the other side.
Wow. So what was your initial reaction to that? Like, how did you, when you met with him, what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, the first thing was he appeared to me, he died of cancer. And when I had seen him last in the physical, his body had been withered, and he was a big, tall, strong guy, like 6'3",
Mm-hmm.
6'4", strong guy. And the cancer had like, changed his body. When I seen him in the astral, or like the higher realm, he looked young and healthy, even younger than like what I had known him as, as his son.
Mm-hmm.
And we embraced each other. He gave me a hug, like we hugged each other. And he joked with me. He asked me what took me so long. And
Because he already knew that you had the gifts. You just needed to tap in, right?
yeah, and I mean, I told him on his deathbed I would find him again, and I didn't even know what I meant at the time. So he gave me some messages, and what really that experience gave me was healing at such a deep and profound level, because then I had experienced that, like, he wasn't obliterated, like his soul continued on, and I had then the experiential knowledge of life after death. And that changed me. That completely changed me, because then when I like phased back into my physical body, first off, I was crying, like sobbing, from like that release of all that pain and all the unknowing. And he gave me a message from my mom as well. But yeah, so
what did your mom say after you explained to her this experience that you've had?
She said, next time you see your father, tell him I'm going to kick his ass. Literally what she said. Because he died of cancer from cigarettes,
Wow.
And we had always begged him to stop smoking. And like, I used to have premonitions when I was a kid, dreams that he was going to die young, and dreams of like the Reaper, like coming up my driveway to like take my dad. I used to have these dreams. I used to tell him about them, like wild stuff as a kid. But yeah, my mom didn't like not believe it, but she also was very like wrapped up in her own processing and her own pain and suffering through it. So years later, now though, I actually have her like reading the out of body stuff and like getting more into it. So like, she's definitely awoken to it, and she's interested in it, not where I'm at, but it's okay. It's great.
So how many times have you traveled outside of yourself, and are you ever afraid that you won't come back?
Yeah, I've traveled a good amount of times, more times than I can count. I actually just got out of body the last time on the 31st of January. That was like 5 days ago. And then the time before that was on the 13th of January. So I keep a journal of these occurrences, because they're so transformative that like every single one they're literally life-changing, every single one. So no, I'm never ever afraid that I'm not going to get back. I've been so far out into other realms of consciousness, so traveled for such length of time, if you want to call it that, because it's so beyond time. That when I first started, one time I was like, I wonder if I could even get back. I'm so far away right now. And instantly I snap back into my body. Wow. So actually it's like the opposite now, where it's like my entire time that I've achieved that state of beyond the self, I'm focusing on keeping myself there and proceeding forward with the journey, and not getting pulled back into the physical, because we're in a thought responsive reality matrix in the higher realm. So if you think human body, if you think earth, if you think my human self, you're going to get magnetically like attracted back into your human experience, and it's going to break you out of that phase. And I just want to clarify for anybody that's listening to this, because a lot of times I get people that ask, like, how do you know it's not a dream? How do you know it's not like your imagination? Like, what is it like? And the main difference is that, like, when you're in a dream, you went to sleep and you're having a dream. This is a technique that has to do with a practice of consciousness, with an intent, with an energy, with repeated techniques and affirmation and work within yourself to initiate the onset of it, which is like you feel like a vibration come all over yourself, within yourself, a deep, powerful vibration that is very jarring. It's unlike anything you ever felt in your life. And then you slip out of your physical body with 100% of your consciousness. Just as the same as I'm standing here, I would then be standing next to my bed where my body is asleep and peaceful. I could see my physical body there, and I could see the room that I'm in, and then you leave. So it's like
Wow.
that's the difference. Like it's not a mentalism, it's not a deep imagination, it's not a vision quest, because that's a side of, plenty of spiritualists know what I'm talking about when I say a vision quest. Like you go into your meditation, you're
Yeah.
given visions, you go through multiple visions, and you get some information or some experiences. A lot of people do past life regression that way and
I was
whatnot.
just about to ask you about that. Like, is this similar to a past life regression or progression? Something that you need to go forward and heal before you even approach that realm in your physical self.
Yeah, you can experience your past lives through out of body experiences, and the way that you experience them, you can experience them directly by like re-embodying the experience that you had as that being, or you can see it from like an outside perspective, like as if you were watching an event take place from like a higher perspective. But it's not required that you do any work at all to get to this state. All you have to do is be fearless and understand the techniques, and have enough courage to pursue your spiritual truth. Like there's this one quote and I love it. It's so powerful to me. And it's like, it goes, "You should seek God the way that a drowning person seeks air." And if you could really embody that within yourself, within your consciousness, like that there's nothing more important than you seeking your spiritual truth and your spiritual understanding. Like, and if you need it the way that a drowning person needs air, that's the type of conviction you need to have on the spiritual path to really have a transformation and to really shift your understanding and to evolve in consciousness. Is you have to have that type of dedication and fearlessness.
So you're with the University of Metaphysics. Are you an alumni, or are you still in the program as well?
Yeah, I'm almost done with the program now. I'm almost done with the program now. So I've been working at it for a couple of years, and yeah, I've been with them for like 9 years, about 9 years with IMM, and they're amazing people. They're it's an amazing group, and the information that the founder put into paper, is very sound. It's very sound and it's very powerful, and it gives you some really good intellectual understanding of some very hard things to understand.
Yeah. So what led you to go through a formal process of attaining knowledge and information? Because, a lot of people, if you're not going to a brick and mortar or like a traditional university or college, sometimes those degrees aren't recognized. So what led you down this path, and what are you studying?
Yeah, well, Jesus wasn't certified.
Right.
Like that's like the short answer to a long question. You don't need a certification to be a master. You don't need a piece of paper to validate your spiritual experiences. You don't need formal training to be a very high level consciousness. I decided to go down the Metaphysical Institute route because I saw that it had an accreditation and a certification that was in alignment with spirituality, true spirituality, and there isn't a lot of that around there. And the thing about them is that even though they're non-secular, because of the laws of religion and whatnot, no entity can discredit their degree. Like their degree is, you can't discredit it. So it's like it's just as worthy as any degree. It's just it's non-secular. So I loved that. And I also, in this world, people want to see some type of degree, like or some type of certification. Like it's so funny to me right now, like over COVID, everybody's got a life coach certification.
Yes.
Like everybody's a certified life coach. Like, what were you doing before you're trapped in your house? Now you're coming out, you're a certified life coach. Like, more power to you. Like, if you're bringing positivity and happiness into your life and other people's lives, that's great. But like, everybody came out of the COVID, they're a life coach, they're a fitness coach, they're this coach, they're that coach. Like, everybody wants to help everybody else. Like, how about you help yourself first?
Yes.
And that's where my journey was about helping me and growing who I am and learning my spiritual depth and pursuing that first. And in the beginning, I wanted to help everybody and tell everybody, but people weren't ready back then. I wanted to scream it from a mountaintop, but what I learned is I ended up isolating myself. Like, people who I talked to about this weren't ready for it. They were very attached to the religious aspects of it. People called me the devil, because things like that. And so I stopped just talking about it all the time with people, and I realized that the journey is one of like an individual pursuit first, and then you can bring that to the people. So just to wrap that question up, is like, I have like a Reiki master certification. I'm a very powerful energy worker. I have levels of understanding that exceed Reiki, far beyond what any Reiki manual has ever taught. But people like to know that the person doing their energy work training has like a certification in Reiki. And then I can say that, like, yeah, I have a Reiki master certification, but what I teach like far exceeds Reiki. Like, I've learned energy work from higher dimensions of consciousness. They don't have that in the book, so. And the other side of it is I want to integrate my work more into the mainstream through like literary productions and like speaking and events and all that. So having a metaphysical PhD is going to help. People aren't going to ask like, where's your PhD from? And if they do, it's fine. But just the fact that you have a credential at that level, it just gives you more credibility in this world, and that was the reason, was I wanted to have more credibility. And also, people have a lot of discernment, and a lot of people, they're not ready to like give up their disbelief. But when you have a credibility and you've proven that you are like an active member of society, that you have a level of intelligence that is acceptable, and you're not a loon or a crazy person, then they'll be willing to hear you more. And I think that now is the best time for up and coming spiritualists to take it seriously, because it is being accepted more in the mainstream. It's not mainstream yet, but at least people are talking about these concepts, even if they're not completely sure, and even if they're not having the experiences of it. It's in the air now, so it's a really good time to be a part of it.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because I had my awakening, and we could talk about me later on your show.
Yeah.
But I had my awakening when I was 19, and that was almost 20 years ago now. And it was very taboo to talk about the type of things that I was even interested in back then. But I was thrusted into the Baptist church and was very dead set on Bible, church. Yep. And so now I see the progression in spirituality because of social media. And to me, it seems that there's more awakenings happening at a much rapid pace. And also there's more, like you said, gurus and coaches that are coming to the surface. And we have to really like develop our discernment, or else there's so many scammers out there. We would be caught up in that circus. But I think it's a part of me feels like it's becoming one of those sectors that's kind of overly saturated, but the fakes will start to fall off pretty soon, because you can only fake for so long.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I love so much that you mentioned that, because, man, as you know, being a person that's actually on the path and knows the transformation that takes place, seeing people wearing like the badge of spirituality, they're at their level of understanding. I don't like to say I have a fear about it or like a resistance about it, but my only contention, which like I release this, I do, because I'm happy that there's any conversations happening. I just don't like people spending their money and not getting evolution. I don't like people getting scammed, and I don't want people to be like misled, because when you're putting your trust into a spiritual advisor, you're putting your deepest vulnerabilities. You're probably talking and expressing things that like you don't even tell your parents or your best friends. And
or a psychologist.
Or a psychologist, especially a psychologist, or they'll put you, they might put you on medication. But yeah, so like I don't like that people could be taken advantage of, and I don't want them to like mistrust spirituality because they got in touch with. I've heard tons of stories of people like, I had this guru or I had like this tarot card reader or this and that, and it didn't work out, and I learned that person was on their ego journey, and I'm like, yeah, of course. And there are people out there that are deep spiritual seekers that have done lots of work and have a lot to teach. And that's how information has been passed down since the dawn of time. The other thing is that this information is not new. This isn't new. This isn't new stuff. This is as old as the first light that entered the sun, or the universe. Like, this stuff is old as God itself. So, there isn't like this new way to do it. I find that there's a lot of like meme culture right now.
Yes.
And anybody can make like a meme. And you really got to be careful with your memes, guys. Just because you read it and it had like a picture, and it doesn't mean that you should like adapt that mindset. Like, there's a lot of like memes that sound like they're based in spirituality, but the reality of it is like it's an ego projection that will only slow down your own evolution. If you want true evolution, start meditating. Start becoming aware of the thoughts that you create. Thoughts are psychic energy. Our thought, like the word psychic, we got to take like the stigma out of psychic. Like, when people hear the word psychic, they think like reading minds, or they think like seeing things and visions and stuff. Psychic, the word psychic just means like non-physical. All energy that you could feel that's invisible to the naked eye is psychic energy. So your thoughts, you can't see them when you think things, but there is a field, and science is even like caught on to this now at this point, that there is energy in thinking. So like your thoughts are psychic energy, and we pick up on each other's psychic energy. So that's the type of stuff that you can get involved with right away, because it's part of your natural being state. Like, slow down trying to meet your starseed family. Like, don't even go there. Like, don't even try. Don't even put expectations on that sort of thing. Not that may or may not happen in your experience, but if you want true tangible growth that you can experience, like while you're in traffic, while you're at work, while you're experiencing like the light of the sun touching you, like if you want that and you want more love in your heart and more quality of life, there's a beautiful path to take. And it's not in the memes, it's in the work that you do in yourself.
Yeah. You just made me think of escapism. People are using spirituality as escapism, like wanting to rush and do something outside of themselves without doing the deep inner work that it takes to heal from past traumas and day-to-day life. So what do you say about those individuals who are clinging on to spirituality as a form of escapism?
I would say that there's nothing better to cling on to. if you're gonna cling on to something, like, it might as well be spirituality, because at the fundamental core of it, it's based in love and growth. So there's a lot of worse things that you can hold on to and cling on to when you're suffering and when you're in pain. Like, if you choose spirituality, I would love to know that you're choosing spirituality within yourself first. Like, you're seeking the depths of your consciousness. There's so many great, amazing books and resources out there that you can use, like the Journeys Out of Body series, Adventures Beyond the Body by William Buhlman, Higher Self Now by William Buhlman. I'm a William Buhlman fan, 1,000,000%. So like Higher Self Now, The Secret of the Soul. There's this wonderful, powerful book called Advanced Yoga Practices, which has like a Q&A format of like very deep spiritual questions that covers an enormous, vast array of different topics. Advanced Yoga Practices is good. There's some really good resources out there. And there's also some really wonderful beings, that are dedicated to this path at a high level. So the thing that you need to do for people that are thinking about escapism is, it's not about escaping, it's about integrating. So like, you're not going to escape yourself. You need to integrate the spiritual path into your understanding. The deepest knowledge that you need to understand is that you're a soul, right? Let's start with the one thing that almost everybody can get behind, and we'll build off of that. So like, everybody wants to believe in God. Everybody wants to believe in heaven, but nobody wants to think about the mechanism that gets you there, like the between. Everybody's they're comfortable with saying, I believe in God, believe in hereafter, believe in life after death. But like, their ego won't let them go deeper than that, because they're like, that's enough for me. I'm good. And you know what? That's fine. If that's what they have, then that's what they have. But I challenge you to want to know a little bit more about that mechanism. So if you already believe in the paranormal, you already believe in metaphysical by saying like, I believe in God, I believe in something that I cannot perceive. Well, when God made everything, because you believe in God, He made the earth, made people, made souls. What do you think God made it all out of? Like there wasn't like a pile of supplies over there. There wasn't like some rocks and some bones and some skin. He was like, I'm gonna build people like we build out of clay. God made everything of itself. So if everything was made out of God, then everything is God.
Yeah.
So everywhere you look is the energy of God. Everywhere in every person is God. Everything in you, every piece of your body, every thought in your mind, every emotion that you feel is also God. So if you can maintain and really have that experience and fundamental understanding within your self-image and within the image that you project into the world, you will look at the world completely differently. Now things that you used to think of as like the mundane have a level of majesty to them. Now when you look at the miracles that we experience, then it has like this, you see magic. Like, look, we're talking into microphones over 1,000-mile distance.
Yeah.
We hear and see each other like we're right in front of each other. And people need to see magic like it's like flames in the air. You know, like the energy of God is existing all around us. And if you can start to look at your world like that and look at yourself like that, you'll have a higher understanding and a deeper connection to your experience. And then we'll connect the next aspect of it. So if you can get that far, and you don't have to start there, you can start anywhere. But then you got to think about, what am I? Well, I'm a soul. Excuse me. I'm a soul. So what's a soul? You know, a soul is an individual perspective of God consciousness on an infinite journey throughout all types of time.
Space and time. Yeah.
Space and time, and beyond space and time, and beyond this dimension and beyond this physical form. So if you think about your evolution over infinity, think about infinity. Like we give ourselves a human time limit. We're like 100 years at best.
Yeah.
Everything's on that time limit.
That's my goal.
Yeah. It gives us this like false perception where it's like, I only got this 100 years to live, and I got like anything that bad happens to me is messing up my timeline, and anything that doesn't happen in time is like hurting my potential for success or quality of life. But the reality is that you're on an evolutionary journey. So the evolution that you attain in this lifetime is the most important evolution of your existence, because you only have the experience to be who you are in this perspective, in this moment right now. You're going to be other beings. You're going to be other lifetimes. You're going to be in other realms. But this one, if you have the ability and the passion and pursuit to explore spirituality, this might be a lifetime that you're transcending multiple levels and layers of consciousness that will propel you deeper and faster into your infinite journey at a higher level. So I think about it like the goal for me in my journey is to embody the highest states of consciousness that I can while within human form. And then once this life is done, to have evolved at such a level that I can embody higher forms of consciousness throughout my evolution. So this is the last part of that. Why would you want to do that? Well, the higher you go in consciousness, and this is from my experience of like out of body journeys and being in other realms, the closer that you go, like we're in a density reality where there's like a lag between like our thoughts and creation. Like when we want an idea to manifest, like we think about it, and then we use materials to create it, and we use resources in the forms of like people or information to manifest things. When you're in like the dream worlds or like higher responsive realities, thought creates instantly.
Right.
So imagine if we were in a world like with human beings like us, but everybody manifested exactly what they thought instantly.
Man, that's kind of scary to think that. It's like, thank God for the delay. Then you can change your mind if it's something that might potentially be dangerous.
Yeah. And in this world, if everybody had exactly what they wanted instantly, this world would literally blow up. Like they would blow up.
It would be too much energy. It's kind of like what is that? Auto combustion or something like that?
What's that called? Spontaneous combustion. That's
exactly what would happen.
100%. And that's the thing. So it's like, imagine that if you're going to have to incarnate for thousands of lifetimes because you're not responsible enough within your own energy to be a part of a community of thought responsive beings, because there are realms where the beings have ascended in love and in their spirituality to a point where like their thoughts are of like this magnificent creation, and it's absolutely in harmony, and no being would ever harm another being because they understand that it's themselves.
Wow.
So we
That
don't have that here right now, but we're getting there.
That's deep. That right there is deep. But I want to switch gears because
Let's
I
do
don't
it.
want us to go, too far over an hour because this is great. I'm very thoroughly enjoying this conversation. You have a podcast, Monk on the Mountain. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, Monk on the
How
Mountain.
how did you come up with it? What was your process? And you just celebrated 1,000 downloads. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Monk on the Mountain, I've wanted to create as many spiritual resources as I can. So I also have a YouTube channel called Cosmic Temple and a website which is oneworldpeace.online, and those actually came before the podcast. So I had some different offerings happening, and then I wanted to do the podcast in like 2019, and I got the equipment and I got it all like ready to roll, but I didn't actually get started with my first recording until the end of 2020, like November 2020. So the Monk on the Mountain, the title is inspired by this story, and I can't remember where I heard it from. I don't think I made it up, but anytime I try to find this story, I can't find it anywhere. But the story that inspired me to call it the Monk on the Mountain is there was a person that wanted to seek enlightenment, and they left their city to go into the mountains to meditate and to attain their enlightenment as an individual. And after years of spending that time, they did achieve their enlightenment, and they did achieve their bliss, and they did achieve their nirvana and samadhi. But when they looked back to their city, they saw that their people were suffering, and their people weren't receiving like the gifts of spirit that they have within. And the monk decided to come off the mountain and leave his solitude behind to bring what he had learned within himself back to his people. So that's the tale of the Monk on the Mountain, and it's very apropos to my journey, a journey of several years in solitude in the Poconos, in the mountains, and
Wow.
Having to leave friends and family and society behind to a great extent to pursue my experiences, and then getting to a point where I realized the world really needs this stuff, and they really need it from people that are genuinely having these experiences and have the courage to put themselves out there. Because that's what it really comes down to. Like, there's plenty of people out there. If every single spiritualist like stood up and started talking about this, you would see that there's an enormous amount of people having out of body experiences, psychic experiences, lots of stuff happening out there. But because it's not in the mainstream, there's still like a certain stigma attached to it. So that was the Monk on the Mountain is designed to get rid of that stigma, and most of all, to give people that are on their spiritual journey a sense of community, to show that they're not alone, that there's other people out there, like I said before, that are intelligent, good people with good, jobs and families and love in their heart, and they're not crazies, they're not lunatics. Like, these are people that are good people that that you're in your community, that are spiritually awakened and aware and having very powerful experiences. And that was the goal. We
I
just
love
got
it.
18 or 19 episodes. I have like 20 or so episodes out right now that'll be coming out in succession over the next like month or so.
And I'm going to be on one of those.
Oh yeah, you're coming. You're coming for sure.
Yeah. So what would be something that you would say, because this conversation has been so deep, but what would be one word that you would encourage someone who's on their spiritual journey to just stick with it and don't be afraid to go into the depths of their soul? What would be one word?
To put it in one word, I would say love. But love is different for everybody. But the concept of gratitude and appreciation for every aspect of your life. So if you could assign gratitude and appreciation to your thoughts, to your experiences, to everything that you are gifted as an experience, gratitude and appreciation will bring you healing, and it'll also it'll change the quality of your thoughts and your experiences. if you're having a bad day, but you say to yourself, I'm grateful for this because I'm learning through it. I'm grateful for this because I get to have this experience. Like, I'm not dead. I'm not like blind. And if you are blind, there's other senses that you can experience. So you can be grateful for those senses as well. I don't want to eliminate anybody, especially because we're on a podcast here. But everything that you have, every sense that you have, every bit of life that you get to take in, love it and love it deeply. Find that love in you that is just like so powerful. It's like the same energy, the love of God, the way that God loves you. Any bit of love that you can attach to in your life. When I teach my guided meditations, a lot of times, like I'll invoke people to think of somebody that they love. Think of a time in their life when they felt love. They could think of a pet or like a loved one, or a romantic love, wherever they can feel that energy of love, and then release the thought, but feel the love. Now you're generating that energy and you're creating love within your expression. So if you can energetically create love within your expression as consciousness, as an energetic expression, the same way you would dance, right? You can dance. Everybody loves dancing. You can use energy. You can dance energetically through your emotional states, and dancing with love will make the whole world dance with you.
I love that. That was so good. Good. Okay. How can everyone find you on social media, website, email?
Yeah. So
and
you
I'll
guys
also
can
put this in the description of the
awesome. Yeah.
episode.
Thank you. Yeah. So you guys, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Shawn Energy. It's SHAWN Energy. It's _world_peace on IG. So if you type in Shawn Energy or _world_peace, that'll get you to me. You can also find me at oneworldpeace.online. That's my portal for kind of like my journey, and I take clients there. It's all donation based, so you don't have to worry about like not being able to afford it. I don't like to put a price between people and their evolution. So everything that I offer is donation based. And I also have the YouTube, which is Cosmic Temple, where I release guided meditations, spiritual philosophy, and the podcast episodes as well, and sometimes like some inspirational videos that I make or whatever I have going on. And I'm also launching a yoga brand, so it's called Om Free, like Om, like home free, but it's OM Free, and so keep an eye out for that. We're going to be selling like different yoga equipment, so yoga mats and things that people can use in their meditation journeys as well.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Shawn. Energy. Can't say Shawn without energy.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was really nice to be here. I look forward to doing this again. And, I just want to inspire anybody that hears this to know that you have such a limitless, infinite potential. And if you just have the courage to seek yourself, you already have the keys to the kingdom of heaven within you. So look within and you'll see it without. I love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning into this week's episode on the MetaSpiritualist Podcast. You can find Shawn Energy's social handles in the show notes with this episode. We hope that this episode provides you with clarity, guidance, and comfort on your spiritual path or faith walk. To dial into our frequency, please be sure to follow us on Facebook at The MetaSpiritualist, Twitter at MetaSpiritu1, and of course on Podbean, Apple, Google, the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and Listen Notes. Also, we'd like to invite you to visit our website at www.themetaspiritualist.com. Right on the home page, you can listen to the podcast, learn more about our platform, and soon we will have a spiritual shop for all of your metaphysical and spiritual needs. You'll also find a page of our spiritual offerings if you would like to book a meta reading or a meta sound session. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our newsletter. Each week, I release a new issue that shares a personal perspective, an affirmation for the collective, and a hype of a friend of the MetaSpiritualist. If you enjoy the content being brought to you, feel free to message us at metaspiritualist@gmail.com. Until next time, we hope that you are in peace, harmony, love, and abundance.